Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. What's going on, everybody?
Right.
Welcome back to the podcast. Just jumped on, and
Yes.
Darren was actually making fun of me because I didn't know who was in the Super Bowl today. It's been that busy, and my kids been making fun of me too. So I told them I'll watch it with them though, at the very least. So super excited
Yeah.
about that. But we're gonna have a jam-packed interview today because we have Brittney on today. If you guys haven't been around or you've been under a rock, me personally, from looking at everything that she's worked with, meeting her in person, she's a wealth of knowledge. She's one of the very few women in the hobby as well. So we'll touch on some questions dealing with that as well, because we want to welcome everyone into the hobby. And who knows? Maybe something we go over in this interview can spark some interest of some new reptile keepers, new species, or maybe even ball python. So let's go to the comments real quick. Like always, Frank is in the comments. Hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel here. We are having a blast. We just had our first Morph Market Live event. It was amazing. Had a ton of people in there. We hit for over 100 viewers, over 100 live viewers a few times. And we had like 264 pre-saves for it. So I think it's gonna go over pretty smoothly. Not sure how everybody else is doing, but from what I've been watching, it's going pretty well. Isaac, what's going on? What is up? And the Strike Force Reptile Group, what's good? Thank you for stopping by. The homie, as always, what is up?
Josh, what is
Yes,
up?
yes, yes. Hopefully we see you guys out in Tinley coming up. You going to this year's Tinley, March or October, either
No,
one?
not this March. Not this March.
Okay. But maybe maybe October?
October. We're
Okay,
trying to
bet.
get Odom to go this time. You can meet Odom.
Oh, that'll be that'll
Yeah.
be good. That'll be good. That'll be good. But he's still enlisted, right? He might be deployed.
Both of them are enlisted, but I don't think he's deploying at that time. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll try
Okay.
to get him to go.
Whip. What's good? What's going on?
What's good?
Arctic,
I
what's
haven't seen him
going
in a
on?
while. I want to know if he has
Yeah.
some stranger clowns this year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know they're keeping that stuff under wraps. But while
Yeah.
we continue to say hello to everyone, I want to bring on Brittney because I don't want to occupy too much of her Sunday. And she's already blessed us enough with attending today. So here is Brittney Gobble. Welcome to the
Yes.
channel.
Thank you guys. I'm so
Well,
excited to be here.
Oh
yeah.
man, we're just so blessed and happy to have you here. To tell everyone that's viewing and watching who you are and how long you've been in the hobby.
So I'm Brittney Gobble of Gobbles Reptiles. And Johnny, my husband, and I have been doing this since I think around 2017 is when we started kind of getting into the reptiles and then more serious about the snakes in 2018.
Yeah.
Okay, so still fairly new, but I mean your name rings bells in the industry. Like anyone and everyone that I've spoken with knows exactly who you are. That's
Well,
wow.
I
What
think
drew you
too.
to it?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think too. I mean, we worked with other animal species, and so I had like the photography thing, and had a lot of people that kind of knew me from the other, like the cats and the dogs and things like that. So when I came into the snake world, I already had a few people that knew kind of, I was friends with or we had interactions with.
Do you still have cats?
I still have pet cats. I don't breed cats anymore. So, we bred like the big Savannah cats, the big F1s, and the Lycoy, so the wolf cats and things like that.
Oof. Wow.
Yeah, like
You
dogs.
are a brave soul.
I know that's like one of my pet peeves, which I may have said this before, but all the years I worked with cats, including big cats, because I had 3 African servals, which are fairly large cats, and no one ever said, "Oh, be careful with your cats. Aren't you afraid your cats are going to bite you?" And but then as soon as I get snakes, which are like ball pythons, they're like, "Is it going to eat you? Do you let them in your house?" And I'm like, you all literally, like, I have friends in the cat world who have spent weeks in the hospital after a cat bite from their pet
Oh
cat.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And because people don't realize how bad cat bites are. And my arm is like scarred from here to here from a kitten that scratched me. Like, so it's like, but no one ever says, be careful of those kittens.
Yeah.
I have zero
Seriously.
scars from my
Wow.
reptiles.
And you haven't been to the hospital yet, have you?
Buy a mouse. Oh, it's the ASFs I don't want to touch.
Oh,
I think mine like throwing
That's
hands and like everything when I go to reach for an ASF. I mean, they're violent little things.
yeah, they are.
so with
Yeah,
the cats, are there really extensive genes like ball pythons, or are they a little more simple?
They're a lot more simple, which genetics is what we love. So, like with the lycoi, we worked with Sphinx first, which are the hairless cats, and that's a recessive, simple recessive. And then Devon Rex kind of can breed with Sphinx and make different hairlessnesses. So, like one can be more like a peach with fuzz, one can be completely naked, and of course, your hets would be completely coated. So, there's some basic genetics. And then we started working with the lycoi because we wanted to see if that was its own gene. We got to work with the geneticist at like Dr. Lyons, and they did the whole
Mhm.
genome of the cats, and we were providing samples. That was a lot of fun, but kind of once you conquered that, once you've like developed a breed, obviously with a great team, but once you've done that, it's like, okay, I need a new challenge, and I'm really tired
Right.
of scooping kitty litter boxes. I love my
yeah.
cats, but there's a lot of litter boxes. So going to the snakes is a lot more fun because you have a lot more options of, you know, things that you can breed
Right.
in.
Right. Having so many different cats, like how many did you have all at one time at one particular point?
So you're gonna ask me the question that always got us so much hate.
Oh
So,
no.
all right. So probably at the most was 30. And which doesn't
Okay.
like to a breeder doesn't usually like a snake reptile breeder, that doesn't sound like a lot. In the
No.
cat
Right.
world, that is like an absolute no.
Hmm.
In our
Oh,
case, because they are like, oh, well, if you don't have like, I think the number is anything over 9 or something like that was this arbitrary number that you were a hoarder immediately. To me, I think it depends on your situation and your resources. We were doing well with our Sphinx,
yeah.
and my husband's a veterinarian. We had a really big, beautiful indoor outdoor boarding facility that we decided we
Mhm.
no longer wanted to use to board. This is just a lot of work, and employees don't want to come in on their weekends.
Right.
Um, and so we converted it with like cat trees and cat toys and kiddie pools and all kinds of things so the cats could have all this fun. And then we actually paid people to scoop litter boxes and cuddle kitties. It actually said that on their checks. And I'm like, I don't care, take a book in there. You just go lay down, let the cats play with you, snuggle them. Because again, they do require, unlike reptiles,
Yeah.
reptiles require care. But honestly, they're like,
Yes.
leave me alone. The
Yeah.
less you touch me, the less stressed and the happier I am. Cats are not like that. You need constant socialization and that attention. And I wanted to make sure that just because I had a larger number, nobody was, even though me and Johnny were checking them and playing with them and cuddling them every day, still when you're dividing it is a lot. So
Right.
still though, not
Right.
those are rookie numbers in the
Wow.
reptile world.
Yeah. No. I was like,
Oh
that's not
yeah.
bad, but
Yeah. No, we definitely get it. We definitely get it. Wow. So what made you pick or what made you guys pick ball pythons out of any of the other species of reptiles?
So we actually, as far as snakes go, we actually had the hognose first. So we bought the hognose and we had them for about 6 months. And of course, we all know like once you start scrolling Morph Market, it's a problem. I mean, it's like harder to stop scrolling that than doom scrolling on Facebook. And so I'm just keep scrolling and scrolling and I'm seeing what pops up. And I saw one of Billy Rose. He had a banana freeway on there, banana fire freeway. And
Mhm.
of course, at the time I didn't know, but bananas are beautiful as babies. So this is a purple and pink, and I'm like, it's like a unicorn. Like this thing probably farts
Mhm.
rainbows. I love it. And Johnny's like, I said, I need the like I need the snake, which obviously is worst case. Don't ever buy the boys first, right?
yeah.
So I was like, I need this one. This is the one. And he's like, we just spent, do you know how much on a hognose program? And now you just randomly want a ball python. And he's a vet. And he goes, I'm telling you, you don't want ball pythons. They don't eat. And he goes, every ball python I've ever seen doesn't eat.
Gonna
And
eat.
I'm like, they're bringing the ones that don't eat to you to see why it doesn't eat. Um, but after a little bit, we like, I talked him into it, and it was that outlet to keep getting to like work with genetics and creativity and seeing what you produce, which is something that I've loved since I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, jumping right into it as far as genes, mistakes, and market reality. The genes I want to touch on because you work with a lot of genes that I love, a lot of genes that I admire. Some genes I don't even have yet. I think smoke. There's quite a
Yeah.
few genes that you have that I'm like
One of
super
the things,
excited.
yes, one of the
But
things I've noticed that you pick up the genes that kind of like aren't as popular.
We
right,
pick up what we like. And
Mhm.
again, from the monetary or as a business, an investment, you have to look at the newer genes, you have to look at the higher end genes. But just because
mhm,
it costs more doesn't necessarily mean it's more beautiful or that there's not a lot of really cool things that can be done with it. Like you mentioned, smoke, we're doing some different things with smoke, which we're really excited about. Another one, which I haven't even posted pictures of this one, I don't think, but I don't know if either of you've heard of Orange Crush.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
okay. And
Will
it's
Banks.
not, yes, and it's not worth a ton of money,
Mhm.
but oh my goodness, and it's not hypo, it proved out it's not hypo or anything, but it is so beautiful. And we hit, and I don't even like pie. Please, I mean, I've said this enough times. Pie's not, I love pattern, so I don't like anything that takes the pattern. So pie's not my favorite,
mm,
but we did hit the Orange Crush pie and it is insanely orange. Like this thing
mm,
is just, and their colors get better and they hold those oranges. So we're really
Yeah,
excited to stack some more oranges on top of that and kind of see if
mhm.
we could almost make a dreamsicle in a way without the albino. So then you would get to keep that color long term.
that orange.
Huh?
See,
That's
I've
wild.
watched
And
that
the
really actually
extreme.
go. He started pushing a little bit during COVID. It kind of went
Hmm.
up in price, and then it kind of just fell
Hmm.
back down. But I
Yeah.
think he did an interview where he's had that gene for quite a while, and he was holding on to it and then waiting for the right time to release it.
That's
Hmm.
what we've heard. And like he'll release something and it's kind of just shoots the market. And we're like, maybe we should just not even, why are we working so hard to do this multi-gene combo? But
Hmm.
then we look at it and we love it. Like you said, like I've got a lot of genes that, I mean, aren't necessarily top of people's list to buy. But I mean,
But
come on, look
Right.
at Grimm. Look at
yeah,
Grimm. People have been
I love it.
overlooking Grimm forever. And it's like
ever.
those are my favorite bins to open. I'm like, let's put Grimm in everything.
Grimm had that moment where people couldn't see it in certain combos, and then they're like possible Grimm.
Mm,
And when you start doing that, that questions that gene, and people look at it differently, and then it falls down in price.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And then I think some genes have, unfortunately, almost they get overlooked just because of when they came out. So
Hmm.
it's like,
right.
some genes are showstoppers. I mean, whether you like it or not, monsoon is different than anything
Yeah.
else. I mean, you see a
Yeah.
monsoon,
Hmm.
that's crazy different. So that gets a lot of excitement. But then you go and you look at a gene that might have come out around the same time. That's an incredible building block gene. So
Hmm.
maybe it doesn't stop the whole show, but it's a good builder. And I mean, Justin has done this for years, go get one of these genes and then show it can do this and it can do this. And, so I think some genes just unfortunately, they just came out at a bad time where they had to compete with other things.
Other genes. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
He did that with Red Stripe.
But I think if it can hang around long enough, which I'm pushing for that project as well, I think it'll be just fine. I think they run into a lot of I think Desert Ghosts and kind of ran into that same thing. I kind of feel, and I hope I'm wrong about it, because we're all in that extremist project. I hate the fact that it was named the extremist after the extreme gene because it does confuse other people,
Hmm.
and I'm like, we don't need this. But
No.
there's quite a few things with the gene.
Oh, I love extremist, but yes, that is like the worst thing ever because I will still go to shows and I'm like trying, and they're like, "Oh, we know. So extremist the single gene and extremist is the super form." And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "But we saw the drama." And I'm like, "So you knew there was drama." Now there are a few people that have come to me and said they only know that they're two different genes because of the drama. And I was like,
Right,
I wasn't even trying to start
Hey,
drama. I just
right,
nicknamed them to help people understand you know, it
something
wasn't
different.
changing a name. It wasn't claiming that we owned a gene or that no, we love Ken. We've talked to Ken.
right.
That's it's not
Absolutely.
like that at all.
Yeah, I kind of like what
No,
the extremist and
definitely.
Grimm did together when I put them
Hmm.
together. It
Yeah,
was great. The great outcome. Better than
Oh
what I
man.
thought it was going to turn out.
I have to say with
definitely.
extremist, it's just fun because everything that you put it with is like
Mhm.
a little, for me so far, it's been a little bit better than expected. Like, you kind of have
Mhm.
an image, but you don't want to be like, okay, set on that because you don't want to be disappointed or have your expectations too high. But it's such a cool gene. I cannot wait to see what it does in, so many different combinations.
I want to see what it does in puzzle.
Now,
So I've been going the
Ooh,
puzzle route with
quick
it.
question for
that
you,
would be cool.
because I know you're in the Stranger. How do you feel about the way Stranger has moved in the market? It went through this high point, and now apparently it's at a low point for some people, and a lot of people argue that it's bottomed out. I kind of feel it is doing what a gene is supposed to do. I mean, it's kind of been around forever at this point. But when it comes to like a single gene Stranger, people are kind of like, it's just a $150-$200 snake. It is what it is, and they're kind of arguing, well, 3 years ago was $3,000, and I kind of think it trended the way it's supposed to be. Well, how do you feel on that?
I do think it trended. I kind of felt like, and hopefully this doesn't upset people, but I feel like it stuck too high too long, or the breeders tried to
Hmm.
force the price too high too long. And let's be real, none of us want to be the one that lowers the price. You don't want to be that
Right.
person.
Hmm.
Um, and so for me, we know how the genes, like before I even started, really looking at heavily investing in ball pythons, we looked at, okay, for a dominant gene, it's a roughly this percentage decrease each year, and there's almost a formula for the genes. But because Stranger stuck there and everybody wanted to keep the price, I was telling Johnny, I was like, it should not still be trying to get $8,000-$9,000. We have now moved to the 5,000 for an insanely cool one, and three 3,500, and it should have moved down. And I think that because they kept the prices so high and nothing moved, some people just had to move the animals, and then I don't want to say crash, but we all know like the market kind of got rough and people
Hmm.
weren't moving as much, and that caused the price to go down. So I felt like we missed a stage, like that,
Yeah.
just that solid where it was just like, okay, depending on what you got, it's an $800 to $1,200 gene. I think we kind of just went from like high to bottom.
Yes. We took it
Right.
off fast. Well,
Yeah,
and I think what also kind
Now,
of gave it a push was the COVID era, because I think it was starting to come down, and COVID just said
mhm.
pushed it right back up because people had endless money and everybody
yeah,
was a lot
Oh
happier.
yeah, coming in. But that kind of also jumps to kind of a little fast forward, but I respect your opinion, and I want to kind of take some mental notes on market reality, because since touching on that, it's like I feel like anything that's new or rare is going to be hot, to a certain degree, and you're going to have a certain demand. It's the supply and demand story, but I think that goes across the board for all these genes. Some newer combos, maybe genes that are put together in a specific way, creating these nicknamed combinations, and then they're highly sought after. There comes a point where it's like, if they're really easy to create, that it's going to drop faster.
yeah.
At what point do we as a community just come to the understanding of it just is what it is, whether it's bells, whether it's the Batman, because I've been around for that part of it, where you're now as a breeder on the breeder side a little disgruntled that the price drops so fast, because you're literally only looking to try to replicate that gene over and over, or that combo over and over. Have you seen a lot of that? And what is your like take on it?
I do think that's tough because it's understandable from a collector standpoint. If we look at anything, anything out there, whether you collect, hand carved knives or like whatever you're into, cards, collector, things that come out, you are going to have a higher price because there's less of them. That's just the way that it works. Now, and we know that there's been peaks in the ball python market, so that's still going to happen. But we also, I think, are at a point where we're doing really good at husbandry. Not everything, but as far as breeding, I mean, you go back and you hear some of the older guys talk about, how they were keeping leopard geckos.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
this is how hey, they had ashtrays for nest boxes when they were, raising them at first. And so
Oh,
you hear that and you're like, I wonder if they were actually producing at the rate that we are
Oh
typically
yeah.
able to
Yeah.
produce now, because we do have different sets of equipment. We're like, oh, we know ball pythons generally do better here. We have better access to different food supplies depending on what we need. So now you have to look at, if you're going to invest, it's like, okay, so sure, there's only this many being released this year. But because of great husbandry and breeders having really good skill and a really good setup, how many are they going to produce that fast? I mean, I
right.
invested extremely early in the monsoon project, and people have started producing the monsoons even last year that I've been trying to hit since the beginning.
Yep.
And I've had people hit genes with my babies, like my hets that I sold, and I still haven't hit stuff.
Yep.
So, and again, like you would think logically, if you have the animal first, you're going to produce, that doesn't necessarily work that way. And so you do have to count that in. Okay, I'm going to buy this very expensive animal, but realistically,
Mhm.
no, I don't want to force, what is it, like, push it to grow. I don't want to, feed it up just so that it'll breed. You don't, like, keeping the animal's care in mind. It does become really risky to say, I'm going to drop 20, 30K on a snake. But
Yeah.
next year, I know that this breeder, he's kept back, he had 2 males from his last clutch. He's going to breed it to 18 females and produce
Right.
how many next year? That 1 year does not give you a great jump. You would think it
No.
could,
Mhm.
and it possibly can, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And so I
Right.
do think that that's tough, because with the way the market that I've seen it, at least for us lately, is like there's only a few very expensive animals, and then a lot of it is more entry level. I mean, a lot of breeders
Mhm.
have cut back, a lot of breeders have sold collections. A lot of what we've sold is just, we're doing less clutches. We're keeping what we need for our pieces to make our next thing. And of course, you have animals that are incredible with great genes, but they just don't hit that dominant gene or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a lot of value off the clutch. You know, so it does
Purpose.
make it
Yeah.
scarier when you're like, I'm going to pay 30,000, but how
Mhm.
many people are going to have that snake? Have that snake within 2 years, and then how many are they going to produce? It's not going to be 30,000.
Yeah.
and
Right.
and then do you do, like with my first stranger, I bred it to a grim. Like, that was the first breeding, and I had a lot of people be like, that's so dumb. It's probably het clown. Breed it to a clown. Clown's money. Logically, yes, that would have been the smarter thing to do, is to breed it to a clown and make the money off of this very expensive animal. But I was excited to take it the direction that I wanted to see it
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think that's tough. And I think that in some ways, as breeders, yeah, we love the idea of, we're swapping out snakes that are, $10,000, 8,000, these high end
Mhm.
animals, like we did a few years ago, and then many
See,
years ago. But
I
I
do the
think the
same
market's a
thing,
little different.
but he tells me don't do that. I do it all the time. I'm like, no, but I want to see it in this. But he's like, don't do it. I do it all
I
the
don't
time.
regret it.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. I don't regret it. But sometimes,
You.
like, Johnny and I will laugh, and we're like, okay, so logically the money clutch would be if we bred it to this. And they're like, but we really want to see what would happen if we do that, which is, I mean, that's honestly at the base of
Right.
it. Putting aside business, obvious. If we're doing this, we're putting a lot of work in. There are expenses. You want to cover that, but we're all in it because hopefully it's the snakes, and it's the love of the genetics and what you can create and interacting with each other. That's what we're really here for. We just have to make
Right.
ends meet.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now we got a good question from Paul. Compared to the cat industry, how would you compare the ball python industry's price fluctuations?
Cats are, so in the cat world, we have very clear boundaries of, this is a good breeder and this is a backyard breeder. And so, backyard breeder
Hmm.
prices can be all over the places. That's people that are breeding cats that were supposed to be spayed or neutered, so they don't have
Mhm.
papers, or cats that, just aren't up to standard, so they shouldn't have been, they were sold as pets with a spay neuter contract, and they decided to breed them. And those are obviously like $200 to $1,200. You don't know what they're going to be. breeder cats usually sit around that $1,200 to $1,500 mark for a pet, typically. With cats, because of the different breeds, you do have different price points for the different breeds. Like with the Savannahs, you're an F1. I don't know currently what it is, but when we were doing it, it was anywhere from $10,000 to $18,000,
Oh,
depending on
Oh,
the
wow.
sex, the color, that type of thing. Um,
Right.
but some of it is similar. Like there was a boom. So Devon Rex, the little curly coated cats, right, that look like a little sheep,
yeah.
everybody wanted to breed them. And they bred, so many breeders around the world were breeding them that it got to the point that you couldn't even hardly sell your kittens if you had a Devon Rex. You were like needing to give them to people because there were too many. So a lot of breeders just dumped their collection because they either were doing it for the wrong reason or they didn't have the finances to keep up with all the care without it being able to make ends meet, because there's a lot of care that goes into it. But they just said, no, we can't do this anymore, and they dumped their collections or sold them, spayed them, whatever. And now Devon Rexes, like when I was working with them, Devon Rexes were one of the higher priced ones because there were very few breeders anywhere in the world. And because the ones that stuck with it and stuck it out and found a way to kind of do the minimum breeding they needed to do to keep their lines going, their cats healthy, they did that, and they kind of rode out that rough patch where a lot of people jumped ship, and it ended up making the breed for a while. It was pretty strong, as far as you had the good people that really wanted to stick it out were the ones working with the breed. And
Wow.
I think we're seeing a little bit of that with how things have been. It's just
I think we're
it's
seeing a
been a
lot
little
of it.
rough.
I think we're seeing a lot of it. And it's funny. I see a lot of similarities in what you're explaining with the cats. Again, it sounds like I'm beating up on it, but I promise you I'm not. But when we speak about the bells, how beautiful they are, I
Yeah.
think they're absolutely stunning. But for right now, for us, I mean, to purposely breed for it just because it's going to sell at a show, at some point it's not going to sell at the show, because everyone at the show is going to have them, which is exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking notes. I'm literally listening. I'm just hoping everyone kind of listens, because if you're being sold that dream, hey, put this Mojave to the lesser and, have a gazillion every year. At some point, you're not going to be able to move those babies at all. And you're going to be offsetting your entire collection and kicking it out the door. I was talking to someone who actually just had to go to Canada, and they were just getting started, only been breeding actually longer than us. They've been breeding 4 years, but now they're leaving the country, and they were trying to get their collection off. And it was roughly about 100 animals. And it was the same thing. I passed them over to Bob, and Bob was telling them the same thing. It's like, listen, and he said it publicly, is coming to him to get out and give their collection up, he has to go through so much in order to bring that collection in, quarantine it, feed it, bring it up to size. He's not even seeking these collections out. They're seeking him out. So whatever you're offering is probably going to be 20 cents on a dollar of what the value is, in order for him to even get it to the point for him to be able to sell it. So it's like, it's not worth it any way you look at it. It's very hard, very
It
hard.
is.
And then also
It is
more
hard.
snakes back in the industry.
It is
Yeah.
hard, and I think it's hard too because we know there's more value than $250 for almost any gene out there. There
Oh,
really
yeah.
should be a higher value than that, and I do feel like part of that is people. We I think as a whole we are going to need to like readjust how we look at the ball python market hobby, and instead of looking at we thought we had it like at the highs, the medium, the low. We thought we had that. Now with the auctions, which are a lot of fun. I mean, let's be real. There's a reason eBay is huge, and I've auctioned off
Yep.
animals. I know friends that have auctioned off animals. I think that's it's a good outlet. I think animals go there like way too cheap almost all the time. Not always, but a lot of times they go too low. But I also think that as breeders, we need to pay attention to that because it is telling us a rough point of where the market is. So, if you're like, oh, I've heard people be, I'm so sick. I put a $2,500 animal on an auction and it went for $300, and by the time I paid shipping, I didn't hardly get anything. And yeah, that sucks. I mean, you probably got a boy out of your rack, but still, yes.
Right.
I mean, it absolutely is gut wrenching. Like you feel sick because you know what you paid. You
Yeah.
understand kind of where you thought the market was going to be. Now, I do not think that animal should be selling for $300. But it
Right.
does tell you that if it has been available and it hasn't moved in that long, that we're still looking at it as too high at this moment. Like,
Yeah.
maybe the market will bounce back to a better point. But even before we kind of dropped it down, I had talked to Johnny several times, and I'm like, I really feel like maybe we should be looking at more realistic. Your high-end animal with a bunch of genes, like you said, it's how easy is it now? Oh yeah, it was it the Desert Ghost Clown. Wasn't that one the one that was like 30K 3 years ago or something like that? Um,
It was up there, yeah.
yeah,
And
and but it's not that hard to make one, right?
mhm.
Realistically,
Right.
like, I do feel like at where we're at now, maybe we need to look at some of these animals being 2,500 to 5,000 for these high-end animals. And then play from there. Maybe like hognose, there's less of a gap in most of the genes. So
Mhm.
your low end is lower, but your price doesn't drop as fast, and it tends to be a little more stable. And I kind of wonder if we're not going to end up having to see that in the ball pythons.
Hmm. That's going to be interesting because it's such, like you said, it's such a large scale down to a normal, which at some point you can't even like give them away up into these
Yeah.
most complex. And it's going to be everyone's kind of trying to chase in, to hit these cool combos that's never been hit. So just like Brandon was just saying, the byproduct is going to be more and more. And then it's more challenging kind of with the byproduct being created because a lot of the byproduct is kind of fairly mid-range to higher
Oh
end stuff
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
being put out there. And then that's kind of pushing whatever's underneath that lower. And with it not having a basement like you were referring to, I believe
yeah,
Jeremy Turgeon was saying the same thing. He was saying he doesn't think that a ball python should sell a normal shouldn't even be less than $200. I get the mindset and I understand, but it's like, how do we get there? Because even if everyone watching, everyone here on the panel right now agree, there's still so many thousands of people that's gonna be like, screw that. So you're just kind of still stuck.
yes.
So like how do we get there?
Well, and I do think that if things aren't moving as well, that is where, as breeders, we all have to look at responsible, like, realistically, what do we most want to produce, and what
Mhm.
will realistically we either have the space to keep, or we have, someone that can help us move the animal. Like, what can we do um, to reduce the number of normals? And the good thing, though, I mean, you can look at it the upside. To get in, I spent a lot of money, like almost 150 grand when we first got in, to buy a lot of these high-end animals, and then just good solid animals to go with them. Maybe they didn't have a rare gene, but they had a couple of genes that were solid. I do think that that is a really cool thing for people getting involved now. That is exciting. You don't have to produce normals. You guys can jump in because so many incredible animals are available right now. This is a really solid time to pick up nice animals. Don't go crazy to where you're stressing yourself out because now you've got so many, but really pick up some good pieces that you can then start to work with. And we've seen it in groups for years where they're like, why would the pet owner, I'm going to breed my pastel to, this, and they're like, why? Why would you do that? Because you're going to produce a bunch of snakes that no one is going to want in comparison to something
Right.
else on the market. Now you have the chance to buy these really beautiful animals and actually make some that are pretty cool.
Yeah. Especially with the
Right.
recessives in it
Yeah.
already at the beginning, because clowns were a lot of money when I got into it, and now they're giving clowns away now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
not
There's
just
a
that,
good
I
time.
mean,
Yeah.
like you said, you're searching for resources too. I think we were talking about it before, how you go, actually, Beast Morph was just saying it too. You go into a pet store, all you would have is, normals. Now you have, in the big
Bananas,
chain pet
pies.
stores, banana, hides, you have like a selection of fancy ball pythons as they list
Yep.
them. And their prices are starting to come down too. It's definitely a huge
Well,
battle to figure out how to maintain it.
I've seen a banana pie inside a pet store for 500. Then I've seen
Mhm.
an albino pie also, where that stuff you would never see that in a pet store. Now you see it in these big chain pet stores like PetSmart, Petco.
Yeah.
Right, and that's probably coming because the whatever that breeder is feeding into the pet stores where he was able to probably sell outright. Now he's having trouble moving that animal, so he moves it into his source that he's been dependent on,
Yeah.
which is that pet income. Definitely.
But we can still,
I
I
think
mean, we can still spin it too. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was listening.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I do think, like, there is, as breeders, there's that disappointment of, seeing projects that you thought were gonna do one thing, and then, or you thought you'd post these and people are gonna need them, but then they don't move. There is that disappointment, but it is also kind of exciting when you think about, I mean, how any of hobby is going to evolve. Just like you said,
Mhm.
the comment there about the normals in the pet stores, and for years, normals were all that you really saw, or a pastel was all you saw in a pet store. This is really cool that our hobby is to a level now. And again, I'm putting a
Mhm.
happy spin on it. Like, there's definitely the downside, but that's really nice that we're getting beautiful, that you can get a beautiful animal in, these
Right.
stores and things now. Maybe this is a good, again, you have to look at all these indications. It's a good sign of, hey, let's make sure what we're breeding, is at the best level that we can make it with whatever pieces that we have, and maybe don't produce as many normals, because used to, people did make their living on just churning out normals.
Yeah.
One dominant gene and I'll dump 300. No, you can expect better now, even at a pet store.
I mean, now we have new normals. They have
Yeah.
3 recesses in them.
Three
I'm trying to smile, but I'm crying on the inside. No, but no, I mean, again, there are, but look at it as a whole. We went from snakes being this horrible thing that if you owned a snake, you were weird. Like, growing up, I don't think I knew a single person that owned a snake. I knew someone that owned an iguana, and that seemed crazy. So, now we're at a place where if you say you own snakes, yeah, some people are grossed out, but a lot of times, I'd say probably at least 1 out of every 3 times, they're like, "Oh, I love snakes. I have a snake," or So we've moved to a point to where, there are more breeders producing more animals, beautiful animals. And I think that is really cool for the hobby, showing how we've continued to do, progress.
Yeah, progressed a lot.
Yeah,
A lot.
definitely. Nick's is talking about hundreds of clutches a year by breed. Yeah, that's gonna be hard. Audrey was telling me before, which I agree with. I think one of the hopefully helping solutions will be to get more people into the hobby, not even just breeding. It could be just hobbyists or enthusiasts, but just getting reptiles in general into non-reptile homes, so we can
Oh
bring
yeah.
more eyes in that way. I think that can be a healthy solution, which is part of our journey and what we're trying to do. A lot of time, you get so much negativity out there, so much negativity around ball pythons. We want to be part of that positivity and hopefully catch the eyes of a kid, or maybe the parents, and show them how much fun it is to just keep one, or interact
Yeah.
with one, and one household by household. I don't know, we can
But
help
our
with some of the
neighbor,
business.
our neighbor's been was
Oh, your
probably one of my
neighbor.
favorite. Yeah, he hates snakes. And about a year ago, I think it was, he like ran a chain of gyms and stuff, like buff, like guy,
Oh
and
yeah.
his son wanted to see the snakes, and so we're like, yeah, come over, and Johnny pulls out, like, we have like a 2011 lavender albino, right? So she's
Right.
huge, like by ball python standards. This is a chunky girl, and the man screams like a little girl and runs, right? And like just straight out of the building. And Johnny's laughing because he's like trying to come back in the door, and he goes, "Ah!" And then he's like, "I'm gonna get over this fear. I will not have fear." And he tried so hard. And and his son's holding it. He's like, "Look, Dad, like, this is so cool." And he texted Johnny. And I said, "Well, I guess that didn't go well." And that night my husband got a text, and it said, "So I don't want to have fears that I can't get over. Can I buy one?" And he says, "I want my kids to see that I'm not afraid and I can get
Yes.
over this." And they have 2 now.
He had to get over it. I mean, that is the ego of a man. He's like, my kids see me weak. Weak.
That is
Dad, you're
ego.
scared of nothing.
Yeah, right. That's wild.
But again, like, now he thinks they're awesome. He
Yeah.
loves snakes and everything. And I do think that is, like you said, that's the part of the hobby. We need to bring more people in, get them more excited about it. And I think it's amazing.
It is.
Now, as a woman in a predominantly male-driven hobby, did you feel welcome coming into the industry initially when you first got started?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I hate that. I again, I'm not going to speak for everybody's experiences because people's experiences are different. Um,
Hmm.
but for me, like one of my very first experiences in person was when I went to Billy's facility in Canada, and I did feel out of place. Not even as a female, but just because I'm a newbie in a room with Justin and
Yeah.
Ozzy and
Oh,
Brian and like all these
Hmm.
big guys are here in this room, and I'm like, why am I here? Did they
well,
accidentally invite me? Um, so and then Brian, I don't want to say his name, Cusco.
Cusco,
I
okay,
yes,
just go.
yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
must have his name wrong. I was like, why? He just must have saw me looking awkward, and he's like, "Hey, sis," and he just grabs me and he hugs me, and it just made me feel very welcome in that moment. And then I'm still standing awkwardly in a corner because I'm an introvert. Like if I could just chameleon myself, I would have probably. But I'm just standing awkwardly, and Ozzy's like, "Hey, Miss G, come sit down over here," and he has me come sit next to him. And so that was my first experience, and it was just so open and welcome. There was no condescension. There was no, you know, please forgive this. There wasn't like flirting, which is
Right.
sometimes can be the other thing. And I like it was just a group of guys. This was the same thing. You mess with me, I mess with you. We're gonna give each other, love each other, be there for each other, but give each other a hard time.
Mhm.
That's the vibe I've gotten
Right.
from the snake community this whole time. It's just, and I have loved that. I just think, yeah, there's some bad apples, and there can be some, you know, rough interactions periodically. But all in all, I just think that the reptile community has been extremely welcoming to me as a female without making it be like, oh, well, because you're a female, you know?
Yeah. I would have never thought you were an introvert because you have
Oh,
that bubbly personality, that outgoing personality. I would never thought that in a million years.
oh no. Yeah, I like small groups and
Hmm.
I can handle groups for like a while, like if I need to. It's like, okay, we're doing this, but then I wipe out. Like when we do Tinley, Johnny will drag me to the car at the end of the day and then he feeds me. There's like a hot dog place and like that does these fancy hot dogs. I will eat a
Yeah.
hot dog and I pass out. Like I wake up like 9 or 10 hours later. Like I don't know what
Exhausted.
happened. I don't even know what state I'm in. He may have driven us home at this point. Um,
Like where I'm at.
no, I prefer small groups. I like to be able to do conversation with a smaller group of people,
Yeah.
but you know,
It's draining.
I
It's
mean, I would have been
definitely
at a place also at that venue. I mean, at Billy's place with Justin. You got Brian, and then who else was there? Ozzy. I would have been like,
Ozzy
"What
was
am I doing
there.
here?"
Yeah, and then Brian, why can't I think of names today? From Snake
Brian Barchett.
Yes. I don't know
Yes.
why the names are escaping me today. Brian Barczyk was there filming, so I'm like in one of the clips. I'm in the background just like this because I don't know why I'm here. And he's so sweet too. He was so nice, and I didn't tell anybody that I was there hanging out with like all these legends. Right? I'm just randomly in one of the
right.
pictures, and then I got a message from a friend, and like I'm watching Brian Barczyk's video, and you're in the background. I
Yeah.
was like, I know, right?
You're like,
Because I was there.
I
I
was
was there.
there.
It was.
Just creeping around trying to like hear all these amazing conversations and like absorb as much as I could.
But at that time, could you keep up with what they were saying and the genetics and genes?
Oh yeah, because again,
Okay.
I already had
Yeah.
done the genes with the cats, and like with the Savannahs, we bred the first blue-eyed F1 because
Hmm.
typically blue eyes is a Siamese trait, which is a recessive. So you couldn't produce it first generation because that would
Oh
be
yeah.
impossible. And male F1s, if you breed a serval to a cat, are sterile for at least 4 generations. So there's actually not a way you can take the F1 female, that first generation female cross, you can breed her back to a serval, like different one, obviously not like her dad, but you could breed her to a different serval. But the serval doesn't carry blue eyes, so you can never make an F1 blue-eyed Savannah.
Yeah.
But I imported a gene that's a dominant blue. It produces blue and odd eyes on a normal coded cat. So it's just a random gene. It pops up periodically, and this one was in the Ukraine. And because it's dominant, you can get it first generation. So I imported this cat from the Ukraine. May or may not had to pay some smuggling fees. No, I'm just kidding. That didn't happen. Not quite like that. I did all the appropriate paperwork, but they do start nickeling you and diming you to like, okay, I can get this to happen, but you're going to have to give more. I think I sent money 3 times to get this cat out of the country. And I was like, dang. So, anyways, I did get the cat and we produced blue IF1s. So again, genes has been something I have loved and been very excited about. The cat also had a color called silver. So she's a silver tabby. So instead of being brown with black stripes, she's like silvery white with black stripes. So I made I called them the snow leopards because they had blue eyes, big kitties with blue eyes and, with white and just black spots or stripes, depending on, that's also genetic in cats. So there's genes to play with. So when I went to the snake thing, I could understand, the genes. I might not know what every gene, whether it was recessive or dominant, as I'm listening, but I knew enough of the basis, and then I would Google. On a second.
So let me ask, because you're way more versed in this than the laymen are. Incomplete dominant, recessive, simple recessive. Are there differences in how do you see a difference between simple recessive and is there a complex recessive? Like, how are you? I
hate this one.
I know. I want to basically learn some of it too.
We have just had to change terminology because when you so a recessive, really, in the world of genetics, and of course there's always people way better, and there are, what is it, like little, except there's these exceptions. But in general, recessive means you carry the gene and you don't show it on the outside. It does not affect the animal in any way. And that's just genetics in the book. That's how it's supposed to be. And a dominant means you carry it, or you not don't carry it, sorry. You can see it. It visually changed the animal. That is really how it should be. But then we go and we get pied, which we say is recessive. But technically they say, oh, you can see tracks, which means now it's not just recessive. And Johnny even tried to argue with someone, and he's like, so it means then technically it would be a dominant with a super form. And they're like, that is actually probably very logical, but you can't say that now because we've already decided that it's, so at this point, we just have accepted the terminology and we're just going to go with it.
See, that's where it comes in. People are saying Monsoon has recessive or markers, right? So is it considered simple or not?
Yeah, that one drove me crazy because it's like,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I hated that so much because I run the Monsoon group, right? And it's like, please stop.
Right.
Please stop. Yes, possibly, slight chance, if you have a Monsoon, het Monsoon clutch that physically came from the Monsoon parent, maybe you could pick the one that had a little more a little more crazy pattern, and you might be right. Now, without DNA and without breeding all of the siblings, you can't even make that statement. But even if you're going to go with that, why are you just picking people were picking random snakes up at shows that they didn't even know the parentage, and they're like, this is a het Monsoon, right? It has the same markers, and I'm just like, please make it stop.
Oh, yeah, that's a little bit different.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't know people were doing that.
Yes, so many times people want to have a new gene. It's exciting, understandable, but I don't even want to have the conversation unless one parent is for sure Monsoon. I had a clutch of lavender albino. They were all hets from my Monsoon, right? And it was from my het Monsoons, right? So I had I don't know, 8 of them, something like that. Every single one of them had a different pattern. It was the wildest thing. And they shouldn't be. I think there was only one other gene involved. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it wasn't anything crazy. So technically, maybe you could have 2 looks, but they should all look the same. Instead, I have every single baby basically looks different from the other baby. And we DNA tested them to see which ones were het Monsoon to keep or, whatever. But that was before the Monsoon test was announced publicly or whatever. And so we were told that we couldn't tell anybody at that moment because they were still testing a lot of things. But I was going to post those babies in the group and say, let's play a game. I want you guys to tell me which of these are het monsoon, and then see, because again, unless you have DNA tests proving or breedings that prove that this animal has produced monsoon, and this one that doesn't have the markers, they never produce a monsoon, you can't really call that any kind of stable marker, especially so early into a gene. Kind of like what you said with Grimm. Right. We're like, oh, this is a Grimm, you know, and then it wasn't a Grimm. Or my favorite pet peeve is low expression. Great. You know, there are genes that can be low expression, but don't just out of the gate start saying low expression. If you haven't produced a low expression animal that was then bred to a snake that does not have that gene and produced it. Now you can tell me, yes, absolutely, that was a low expression exists in this gene. Otherwise, you're just basically wanting to believe that all your babies are the most beautiful, you know, like a parent, like, oh, isn't my kid just the cutest? Like, no, this can't be just a beautiful example of the snake without the gene. No, this one is just low expression because it's still perfect with the gene. You know, it's like, no, that's not how that works. Prove it out before you make a statement.
Now, is there also a difference between incomplete dominant and dominant as far as those terms?
I do feel like there is a difference on that one. Because, I mean, incomplete dominant actually even exists in cats. It gives you, so you have your cattails long or your bobtail, and an incomplete dominant, you get a longer tail, but not a super long tail. So you get something in between, which is kind of cool. I think that's one of the, I don't think there's very many in cats, but that one is. So
speaking of
incomplete dominant.
I just seen, what is it? A pixie bob? Is that?
Oh, those are cool. Those are cool.
Yeah, a pixie bob. I was like, oh, that thing's cool. And it has a little tail. And people were thinking that people dock the tail, but it has a little tail. And it's one of those genes. Obviously, it carries that gene where it has a little bobtail.
Yeah.
It's little ears, but little things sticks up. They look like little bobcats.
Yeah, there's a and you'd be surprised, especially here in the South, how many people think that if a cat has a bobtail, its daddy was a bobcat. Like you hear it so much. It's like, why? Why does it have to be a bobcat? But Johnny at his vet office has had so many brought to him. Check it out. This one's daddy's a bobcat. He's like,
no.
So have you seen any of those instances where it's incomplete showing up with the ball pythons, or is it just pretty much dominant that you're seeing?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know that there are a couple that we've talked about, and I can't think of one. I kind of almost wondered if, with how they describe it, if pied wouldn't have been almost like an incomplete dominant. But again, you rock the boat when you start questioning, you know, how some of those things work, and that's not always great. But I think I don't know. I love the genetics. I love trying to figure it out, and I do like that there's that extra layer with the snakes where clearly things don't always work. You can do, you know, make your freeways. Hoping to hit the extremist freeway this year. So see what that looks like.
So yeah, I want to see how that looks, because even extremist and orange dream and the stuff that is made with just the orange dream in it, it's kind of crazy, and how the orange dream gets brighter and brighter for some reason. I don't know why, but with age it gets brighter and brighter.
Every shed is getting brighter and brighter.
I know.
It's wild.
I sent him one and I was like, okay, maybe. But as it's gotten older, it got brighter, and I knew it was, but I was like, this is the only other one. Okay, I let it go. And then now I'm like, I'm holding on to the whole clutch. I'm not letting nothing go.
I think, do you find in your extremist, because in my extremist, I find that the color is actually better. Just even without orange dream, they have a pop of color. It's not really ever been something that was like, oh yeah, you get extremist because it has color. But honestly, I have clutches that come out that for a second I second guess myself, and I'm like, hang on, did I put orange dream or something? Because they are it's such nice color.
Yeah, no, definitely. But even when you have color in it, it's kind of like it gets, as it's gotten older, it's always gotten brighter. It's gotten brighter, and I'm like, kind of why? I'm wondering what is an extremist that takes another color and brings it vibrant.
Yeah,
it enhances it.
It's exciting because just think of how much you can do. So if you look at that as just what it does with Orange Dream or any basic color. I mean, I think even, and I know, please don't shoot me for this, but the pastel is incredible with it because it's so bright. Like it is brighter than some of the Desert Ghost or enhancers. I do wonder. So now when we put Ultramel or, you know, Monarch or some of these other genes, how well will it keep that? Will it help pump the colors up of that pigment and give us like a little bit more purple or something like that?
Well, there was a couple of just normal extremists that I posted up, and Will's like, "Does that have Orange Dream?" And I was like, "No, it doesn't, but they're bright. They're brighter, and it looked like it might have Orange Dream in it, but I'm like, I don't think it does. And I mean, it could be possible, but I don't think it does. But
I'm excited with the brighter. So one of the breedings that I'm hoping to hit, we could hit a visual TSK Xanthic, and with them having that, you know, very crisp stripe and markings, and then that brightening, I'm really wondering if that will make a cleaner Xanthic animal too.
That's possible because I'm gonna do some stuff with it.
Yeah, I can't wait. My like just like 3 hours ago, we pulled eggs. My mahogany clown girl, that was bred to one of our extremist boys, extremist yellow belly boy, 11 eggs. So she didn't get the memo that we were trying for fewer babies.
Send me pictures of that because I bred the extremist to a mahogany female, and I want to see how that's going to really interact. And now you beat me to the punch, so I'm still waiting for her to ovulate.
Okay. So I did it because we actually have Het Clown Xanthic, I'm sorry, Het Clown Extremist already growing up from I think like last year or something like that. And I really wanted to make another group of Het Clowns that were not like related the same way. I didn't want to necessarily have to breed siblings. I wanted to get to make the clown extremist, but kind of bring in some extra genetics.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to, but even then, I still want to see it.
Do you try to avoid? Do you try to avoid breeding siblings?
I will breed siblings. That's a harder one because, like, obviously in the cat world, dog world, that you don't inbreed. Or there is line breeding in dogs, which is considered when it's done for a certain purpose with a lot of testing. There can be a good reason for it, but typically it's obviously avoided, right? In the snake world, that's a lot looser, which because we don't keep pedigrees, you don't really. A lot of the snakes came out of a single animal with that mutation. So we were more limited. So I will do, like on a couple of the monsoon projects, I think I've bred siblings, but if I can avoid it, I would rather avoid it. And then if I do a breeding that's close like that, then I'm going to be careful not to breed that then back again. So, you know, the easy answer would be like, oh, if you make, you know, females or males of this, it'd be easy to just breed it back to yours that's already breeding age as soon as these hit breeding age and make full visuals. But, you know, I know that we haven't because, again, most of the money that has gone into health testing and stuff has gone into dogs and cats, the pets that people, the cute pets that people want to find out, you know, how come this disease works this way? What can we do? We don't have a lot of that with snakes. And, you know, with cats, there's a lot of testing, and dogs, there's a lot of testing you can do in advance because we know, hey, why did this litter of animals die? You get a necropsy and you find out, like, did all of these have a heart problem? Did all of these have a liver problem? And then you can start tracking the bloodlines that have issues or don't have issues. We don't know that with snakes. I mean, how many times do we say, oh, it was an incubator problem? Because we don't really have an answer, or just it was a failure to thrive baby. And yes, those things absolutely happen. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying that as breeders, we've kind of we breed the stuff that breeds the best, and then we move forward, which can work. That's like farming. But long term, we could be risking, you know, breeding in more issues or breeding in females that aren't as fertile or males that aren't as fertile. Like, you know, we could breed in issues that we may already have issues that we don't know about in a lot of these.
I've always found that interesting coming from the crested gecko side of things because it's all reptiles, but that's definitely not accepted in the crested gecko side. But then when coming to the ball python, I was like, oh wow, I would think people would be up in arms because You can't do that in the Crescent Gecko side. Breeding siblings, we track lineage. We do all these different things to try to make sure we keep all of our affairs in order. But I don't see the genes that far different than the ball python side. It's just what's accepted by the hobby or industry, whatever you want to call it, the community. It's interesting because they've been around, I mean, decades at this point, and that's just widely known. And the same thing on the ball python side.
Well, and maybe
luckily enough, we don't really have.
Well, and I think maybe that comes from the farmers, and this is like the farmer mindset almost. And this is probably not a great thing. So hopefully, mostly breeders are listening at this point. But like, so we have a dog. He's a Lagotto Romagnolo. So he's a truffle dog from Italy, right? Well, at one point when the marshes in Italy were drained, because they were duck dogs, they have a curly coat so they can repel water. Duck dogs, they weren't needed anymore because there weren't as many marshes, and they were kind of just, the breed was completely dying out. It's a very old breed, but it was dying out. So they trained them to hunt for truffles, right? And they specifically wanted them to find the French black truffle, which grows on the root of trees. And they were farmers. These were literally people that they weren't looking for a show dog. They wanted these dogs to do one thing, right? And so they took these dogs and they bred them to the point. These are the most insane trackers of almost all the dogs. When we bred them, we had several litters of them. And as a test, I just wanted to see, I hid little tiny pieces of truffle in little cups in my front yard, right? But my puppies had never been in my front yard because we had kept them in the backyard. But they'd had their first set of vaccinations. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take them to the front yard and I'm just going to sit them down. I sat the 6-week-old or 7-week-old, I don't remember. It's like they were little, set them on the ground. They had never smelled a truffle before. Every single puppy took off. Like it was on a mission. I mean, these things are toddling. They're so fat, they can barely walk. And they're like trying their best. And at least half the litter found one in under like 2 minutes. And one of them went boom, 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 boom. And he just went around the yard, like finding all of them. Even the slow one, it took her a little longer, but she found the truffle just that fast because that behavior was so bred into them that you don't have to train them to do it. You just have to treat them and tell them good job, and they know what their job is. So my whole point in saying that is the reason they are like that is because these farmers did not tolerate the ones that did not hunt well. They were not allowed to be breeders. So you didn't risk it having a litter of puppies. They would euthanize or I don't know how they, but they did not allow those to get into the breeding pool. And they bred a dog that is actually a very healthy dog that is very good at its job. With the snake breeding, when you look at it, for a long time, it's, people kind of the Wild West. You did what you wanted, but breeders, you wouldn't keep a female that continued to eat and never laid. So you're going to take that one out. Or if you pair up a male with multiple females and he doesn't produce, you're like, you know what? I can't risk breeding him again next year and losing out on more clutches because my male.
Correct.
So in some ways, I think that we may have, that kind of farmer. Yeah, we may have actually bred a decently healthy animal by taking out, even though we didn't have tests, being like, yeah, that one's not doing so well. I don't want to breed that one. That one doesn't eat so well. I don't want to breed that one.
Yeah, we're not doing that. These guys are taking that. She didn't have a clutch this year. She'll have a clutch next year. That is so out of there. They're like, I spent so much, and they just think of the money aspect of it. No, she gotta go. She gotta go. I'm gonna keep her. Yep. Yeah. That's how
I felt about my first female monsoon. We did not power feed her. She was breeding weight according to the standard. She hit breeding weight at 8 months old. This is not us power feeding her. I mean, the monsoons are big, and now she's chubby now, but she wasn't then. But just good size. We did not breed her because she's too young, right? But technically, by breeding age, she was, or well before breeding age, she was great size, great body condition. I don't think she gave me a clutch for 4 years, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Like, I mean, this female just did not breed, but she was technically size. And then I had 2 het females. Same thing. Breeding size very quick, but did not produce until they were, I think, closer to 4 years old. So
is
I
that
don't.
in the maybe? No.
I don't think anybody would like me to say that, but I have seen in mine at least that they do seem to breed a little slower than the other genes that I work with. That I can't say that that's a fact. I'm just saying in my program, that's what I have found.
Yeah, 3-4 years.
Gotcha.
And you know, there's some females that I've had for 3-4 years and didn't produce for me until that 4th year. You know, because once they get up to that size, you're like, okay, you got another year or so, let's go. And then they don't go until 4 years.
Yeah, but I'm not a patient person. I'm like, why? I paid too much money. Like,
I'm pretty sure you're not the only one that felt that way.
Oh man. Okay. If you watch any of my like original interviews, I have been such a hype person for Monsoon. I love it. I love the pattern. And then it's like, why do you do this to me? And then I think it was the last year was my first year. I was so excited because I finally had the chance for my triple het. So it's clown, hypo, Monsoon. So it's triple het to triple het. And I was like,
Yes.
I mean, there is no way. Like, I have been dying for this clutch. I'm waiting. The female didn't take the first year. So this is like a second shot, you know, to work. And was it 11 eggs? It was like a crazy number of eggs. And I was like, there's no way I can miss all of it. At least it'll be a hypo Monsoon or a clown Monsoon. Nope. I hit one visual Monsoon, I think, and it was, of course, a Mojave Monsoon, because duh.
Wow.
And then I was like, that's not even fair. And then I hit let's see what I hit a clown hypo and a clown and then a hypo. And the ones that were visual weren't het Monsoon. So like, I mean, my luck, I think I got one out of the clutch. So I was like, this is at least the building block and I'll be happy. But that sucks so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
the morph gods will play with your emotions. They will humble you.
But they owe me next time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we got to keep telling ourselves.
They do. They play with me so much until they say, "Oh, he's gonna give up," and then that's the season you hit it. Because I'm like, "Yeah, I'm done with this," and then you hit it. You're like. So
I had a snake I love that was supposed to also have asphalt, and he did not look like an asphalt on his like stomach, like, you know, like the general things we would look for, you know. No, I even showed a couple big breeders and they're like, there's no way that's asphalt. And I was like, okay. So I bred him, and I bred him to was it like 2 freeways, I think it was. And that what trying to remember, it was his 3rd clutch. He'd never produced anything. Like, he should have gave me a freeway at this point, with what I had bred him to, and I never hit it. And so I actually listed him on Morph Market as not having asphalt in him. While he's listed, his very last clutch hatches with freeways, and the female was a yellow belly. So the only way, and she'd never been bred to another male. Yeah. So the only way, like, there's absolutely no, he is the father. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, and at this point, he had given me over 20 babies and multiple chances. And I was like, yeah, he's just not. I'm very disappointed because I love asphalt and I love freeway, and I never hit it in like over several years. And I list him, and literally then I go, oh, like freeways.
That's how it happens. Once he's for sale, then it's like, okay, you get it. Now you know.
He's like, okay, fine. I'll give you what you want.
You want to put me up for sale?
Let me ask you, what's one mistake that you constantly see like new keepers or new breeders making?
Well, I could say maybe one, I think we all do this a little bit because it's hard not to. You jump in too deep, and then it's too much too fast. And you know, that can be hard. I'm very lucky, like, you know, with Johnny, we're a team, we can do a lot of this together, but it can be hard and it's addictive. And then it's like, well, I could use this part of my savings and I can buy this and buy this. And especially with how things have been the last few years, I think that can be a scary thing, because then you get into a position where now you kind of needed that savings, or and you have to make the decision to sell more than you wanted to. Like,
right.
because, so I do think that's a tough thing. Or you have a partner who is like, you said you were going to be producing snakes, and it's 4 years and they haven't, which can happen. I mean, that's just breeding animals. But and then you see beautiful animals end up like ready to breed and go on the market. So I think that's one. I think buying like the lower end animals, and that's not quite the same now. Like when I got in, there was people that were like still very excited to buy a pastel. And if you are excited to have a pastel, that is wonderful. But if you are looking at this as any like a longevity, and you're going to work into having a larger program, I do think it would be better to really think about what pieces that you need, not what you're going to do to copy someone, not thinking you're going to make this animal that's selling for 10 grand, because it's not going to sell for 10 grand by the time you make it. That's not the way this works.
Right.
What your vision is, what you want to see in your program, and what you want to work with. And then if you have to, save for it, or talk to the breeders. A lot of breeders do layaways. I do a lot of layaways for people, because I'd rather you get the animal that you want. If it takes you 10 months and you just making little payments, I don't mind. It's not bothering me for it to hang out here, and you get a really great animal at the end of it. So rather than just rushing, which I am so bad at, every time I fall down a new rabbit hole, it's like I want to rush out and do all of the things. Maybe take a step back and be like, okay, yes, I could get this one today, or wait 3 months, and this one would be a really great, foundation.
Yeah.
Russian. It sounds just like Audra. Russian. She wants everything to be done instantly, like snap a finger. And I'm like, babe, I'm not Superman here.
But we also live in that time. We live in that time. Everything's like right away.
Yeah. Which is great. I love it. As an introvert, I barely have to even leave my house now, because Amazon's here in 3 hours.
That's probably even worse, because you get everything delivered, right? You got DoorDash or whatever, or Amazon coming straight to your door. You don't even have to go shopping for clothes anymore. It's online, shipped straight to your door. And if you don't like the size, send it back. Animals come straight to your door.
It's a great time to be alive.
You don't have to leave.
Oh man!
I will say my biggest mistake is actually kind of funny. When I first started, I would say one of my biggest mistakes was the opposite, because I listened, and all the breeders said, make sure you get your females first. Make sure you get don't buy all the boys. So I bought the one boy, right? He was like a few months old when I got him. And so I bought the one boy, but then I was like, I will take advice. I will take it to heart. Unfortunately, you need to have balance in all things. So I went hardcore the other way, and I ended up with like 15 or something females, and I had literally one 3-month-old or 4-month-old male. And then because I was like, as you start getting in, people are like, oh, I'm retiring. Like I got a super orange dream from Aussie. People retire out these beautiful animals. So I had a couple of these great. And then I'm like, I have literally nothing to breed it to at all. So that is also not wise. I had to buy I bought a confusion male from Justin in a panic, because I had no males whatsoever. And my females were like, starting to like bowl wrap and all. And they're like, so what are you going to breed it to? And I'm like, I have nothing.
Didn't think that far.
Yeah. I was like, I thought it'd be like next year, and then my boy would be bigger, but now he's like 8 months old, and I still don't think he's like anywhere near ready for this. So do listen to advice, but also, think it through.
Well, that's also even, having that backup male, because sometimes that first male, he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not going to do it. She's not good enough for me. You have that. You're like, no, man, you need to do this. This is what you're here for.
Oh yeah, that has been a lifesaver. Like that's one thing that I always do, is we try to keep one dominant gene male. Like he may not breed at all. Like the last one I think had one clutch maybe, but he's just that backup. Like sometimes I just don't think they like each other, and you're like, you can put them together and they don't hit it off, or the male that you thought you were going to use just you know, I mean, we're always watching condition. And if the male just doesn't seem, it's like, no, you don't need to breed anybody else this season. You're done. So having that male there, you know, it can seem like such a waste, but it can be such a lifesaver when, you know, you're like, oh crap, I don't have anything that would logically breed this animal. And again, you can always skip it, but sometimes it's a really nice female and it's like, oh, I really want to breed this female. It'd be valuable. So I like, again, it's not just like, I don't want to have just like a crap male. You know, it's not just like it's anything. It's like, okay, this is a gene I like, a gene I would, you know, I would like to see in some things. It's just not at the top of my project list.
Yeah, to have that backup, the fluffer.
Yeah.
Do you use a fluffer?
No, but we do in cats.
Oh, really?
Wow.
They do.
so it's, I guess it would depend on how you want to phrase it, but it's more for the girls. So girl cats come into heat every 6 weeks if they're not bred. And it's really hard on their body. And if they keep doing it, they can get an infection. So if you can get them to go out of heat really fast, then they won't go through that full cycle where they just don't want to eat and they can lose weight. And it's just not pleasant for them. And so if you have a neutered male that has a pretty decent sex drive, which I did have a neutered male that would happily do it, that cats are induced ovulators. So when they get bred, it spikes, and when those spikes rip out, it causes the ovulation. And so that kind of, and it's really like within 24-hour kind of, you know, it's a very small window of time basically. So it's great because you've shortened that period of stress on her body of her calling and yeah.
So do they get pyometria? That's
what it is. That's what it is. Pyometria, yeah. And it's hard because you've got an animal that does it like clockwork every 6 weeks. And they can start at that. My youngest was 5 months old, and you're not going to breed a 5-month-old cat, but you know, you're trying to get them that year mark and at least. And so sometimes you have little tips and tricks to like try to stop it.
Wow. Because pyometria, and I know pyometria in dogs, it's terrible. It's terrible if they get that, but most likely a lot of them didn't. But I'm pretty sure that's a trait that really started carrying over, and people just started ignoring it, and it started really actually being more in the breed than when it should have been.
There were definitely, like, if you had a mom that did early, a lot of times she might produce babies that would also cycle earlier. I mean, like with the Lycoy, there's a lot that is done with cats that I think is really interesting, would be really interesting to see how well it traced in other animals, because we know it can work in different species. But for instance, when we started with the Lycoy, the first Lycoy female produced a very tiny litter. They were born a little bit too early, but I think it was 1 kitten was all we had out of the litter. And so for those first couple of breedings, I mean, the max was 3 kittens, but really like 1 or 2 was kind of what we were seeing. They were very, very small litters for a cat. And so we wanted to outcross these. It's a recessive gene. We wanted to outcross. So we got big barn cats. We actually did a deal with a shelter, and the big black cats that were going to be euthanized because they were just adults at a time when people wanted kittens, basically, and nobody wanted a black cat. We'd get these big healthy, and we'd say, we'll do all of the health, you know, all the health workup. We'll do all of that at our cost. We'll do 1 litter with them, and then we'll spay them and place them in a pet home because we want to follow their health for the rest of their life. That way we want to know if any kind of health issue pops up, we can be aware of that and if there's any effect on the babies. And so we had a couple females like that. And by choosing these big healthy cats and that kind of thing, generally the Lycoy had anywhere from 8 to 13 babies within like 5, 6 years, something like that. I mean, and I don't mean like babies they couldn't take care of. These moms, because they were also big, healthy barn cats, these moms raised their babies. Like, you know, sometimes you help them a little bit, but they didn't need your help. They produced plenty of milk. They cleaned their babies. They took care of them. And so, like, I think 6 to 8 was like average for almost all of the Lycoy at that point, just because of breeding to focus on that, which is really cool. It's like, okay, so with snakes, you know, my female that has 11 eggs, it'd be really cool to know, will her babies as a female, because in cats, typically it's the female that decides that number. So if you kept a mom, that's how we did it with the live koi. This mom gave us 9 kittens. We are keeping your girls, not your boy. We want your girls. So we're going to use these girls, and then those girls would also have large litters, and you would pick a baby from that large litter, and you would produce that way. So again, it's kind of interesting how many traits that we don't always think about. So could clutch size, could you increase that if we were picking from that? Eating, certain snakes, they don't want to eat, they do want to eat. I had male cats that we would have to physically give them, like make them sit there with soft food and kind of hold them there, because when it was breeding time, man, they were game on. But they were so game on, they couldn't even think about eating, because they knew girls were somewhere and they needed to find them. Well, that's a great trait when you want a breeder, but you don't want your male losing weight and being unhealthy and unhappy because he is so driven. You need a balance there. So again, like some of our male snakes, we know male snakes in general go off food, but I do wonder if we were focusing on some of these other things, could we focus on breeding animals that were more dependable on eating, by selectively breeding out the ones that didn't.
Right, genetically, yeah.
So there is a certain point I always felt with some of my males when they go off, and it's always really close to when those females start to go through ovulation, and it's before, but those males would stop eating. Like I'm going through that right now. I'm like, man, you guys are not eating this week. What's going on? But that makes sense now, which it kind of makes sense. You always know your females are going when the males stop kind of eating.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm not saying it would stop the behavior. I'm just saying, like, I've had a couple of males who it's just like, you're too thin. You should not, or they stay in that period way longer than even though they're not breeding. It's like, I'm not even doing it. You're just here. I just do wonder if how many of some of those behaviors could be affected by breeding or not. Yeah. With the male cats, yeah. Like if there was a female, and with cats, it's really interesting. If the male calls, it can bring the female into heat. So a trick was when you were showing cats, if you had a female that wasn't coming into heat, or you had a specific time, like you knew you wanted this female to give birth so that you could go on vacation in the summer. So you really needed her to come into heat like as soon as possible. You would take her to a cat show, because all the stud cats smell and would be yelling around the show. And you could guarantee by the time you got home, she was going to be like squatting and begging. Like you just knew it was going to happen.
That's kind of, but to do that to the cat is like, oh, we know what you're going to do. We're just going to take you to the show. Let all these males just go crazy. And that's kind of wrong for the stud, because he's like, oh yeah, she's here.
Right.
It makes for an entertaining. It makes for an entertaining show because they're all hyped up. I think my worst was so in cats, you don't crossbreed, right? Like you don't breed a Bombay with a Sphinx. Like you keep your breeds pure unless it's an allowable outcross to the breed. And I had the fluffer. That was my black Bombay. So he's neutered. He can't breed. He's like won every title this cat can possibly win. But he loves for this. I said, as long as he wants to go to shows, he can go. And he would see me packing and he'd go get in a crate. And I knew that was a sign he wanted to go. But then he just wanted to sleep in the hotel room bed. And he wouldn't get in his crate to go to the shows. And I realized that now he just wants to ride. He doesn't want to show. So for a while he rode. And then I started packing one day and he just was like, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay here. Yeah. And so I didn't force him to show. He doesn't want to show. But when he was still showing, I was showing a very, very driven male cat, right? This cat was like one of the most aggressive breeders I ever owned. And the show cat tent has a divider in the middle that you can zip and unzip, right? We're in the middle of a meeting in this huge show hall. Like we did like Tinley, right? But you've got all these cat show booths and set up, and we're having a meeting, like a welcome here. This is the judges, and all of a sudden you hear 2 cats breeding. Like the whole hall is just like ringing. And I was like, glad that's not mine. And then someone goes, Brittney Gobble, your Sphinx is breeding your Bombay. And I was like, everybody in the hall looks at me because that's like cat, like I just committed a murder, like by crossing these 2 breeds. And I go, they're both boys. They're both boys. And one is neutered. And I couldn't show the black cat because his fur is now covered in stuff. And my Sphinx was very happy with himself. But yeah, that was.
They're like, it's not mine. Yeah, right.
I was so thankful. And then she didn't say like your boys are breeding each other. She's like, no, my two separate breeds. She's making sure that the whole hall knew I had broken the cardinal rule. But
oh God, that's so embarrassing.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, that cat, he peed on people. He would turn around as they walk by at the shows, and he peed through the bars at people. And he had a great flow. I mean, it'd go a long way. One time he grabbed me. I had a sweater on, and he was on like a cat tree level thing. And I got his food bowl, and then I stood up, and Johnny's helping me scoop. And then he grabs me, and I don't know if you've ever seen cats breed, but they bite the back of the neck. They like scruff the girl's neck to hang on for dear life. Yeah. And then they go to town. Well, he scruffed my neck and got his claws hooked in my sweater because it was like a cute, like little hole sweater. And he is going to town, and this cat's like 14 pounds. This is a big cat. And I can't get him off. And he just goes, and I was like, Johnny, help me. And Johnny just stands up and he goes, haha, no. And he just stands there, and I'm like, make it stop. And he's like, no.
He got it. He was like, you're mine.
And then for like a week, he'd look over and he'd go, I'm like, that was not very nice.
The cat was
oh yeah, full experience. I had like claws in my shoulder.
He got you in the right spot too. He was like, yeah, I'm getting the back of that neck.
He was like waiting because it's the moment I stood up and we were at the same level, and he's like, game on.
Yep. She wants it.
He thought so. I was trapped. I couldn't unhook the claws, and then every time I pulled, his like weight was like pulling down on my back and sinking his claws in deeper.
Oh, he's probably like, you're making all the right movements.
I was trying to act just like a girl cat.
He's like, oh, she wants it.
Oh, it's weird. I'm glad these snakes are a lot easier to breed, a lot less dramatic.
I don't think you'll be clawed anytime soon.
No.
So, if you had to start over today in this current climate, what would you do differently than what you did before?
I think so. When we first got in and we started making our decisions, we definitely were trying to gear a lot of our breeding toward the newer projects because that did at that time make a lot of sense because there was limited number, which of course drives up the price. And as an investment, that makes sense. And you have longer to work with that gene before the price is going to, go to a lower price. As well as, but I will say it was also partly excitement. It's like that chance to make something. Like with the monsoon, something is going to break the pattern. We know it's going to. It exists, or at least I believe. Because you never know. It's like that you put that one gene with this gene, and it's like, why did that happen? I believe something will do it. We know that stranger with monsoon turns it into a brown turd. So but it broke it. Like the pattern changed. So there's going to be another gene that does it. So for me, that's still exciting because someone's going to hit it, and we don't know what it is. That is the part of genetics I love. So I will say that's why we went with some of the higher end stuff. I think if I was doing it now, I wouldn't be as quick to buy the newest gene out. Just because I do feel like it's a little riskier at the moment. Not that you shouldn't, and if you love the gene, go for it. I mean, it's still amazing. I'm not trying to deter people from doing that. I just think I would be like, don't do it just looking at it from an investment standpoint because it's not necessarily the best investment. Unless you just hit everything perfect. Yours is a breeder that wants to breed at the right time, and you get, your female takes or your male takes, and then you actually hit the gene. Like there's a lot of ifs in there. And with the market the way it is, I would have to really want the gene before I would do that. I would probably be looking for, again, there's a lot of really great animals. I have a lot of friends that I've seen that have, left the breeding world at this point. So there's access to a lot of really, really great genes right now at really great prices. This is definitely, like I said, I would go in and I would look for some of the multi-gene animals with jeans I liked. Make sure that you like them, because you're going to be cleaning poop out of those bins every
Oh, yeah.
you have to like. Don't be you don't want to be disappointed when you open the bin. So I think that's what I would do, is I would just be looking for some solid multi-gene at this point.
Good advice. Good advice. So what would be your
and
advice
better picture taking. learn how to take pictures.
That leads into the next thing. Like, what advice would you give to that new breeder that's trying to stand out, and not do the whole race to the bottom? So I guess that picture taking would definitely be one of them. But what advice would you offer them?
So I think we're at a little bit of a hard place where sometimes it does feel like it has to be like a popularity contest, and that's exhausting. Where it's like you have to sell yourself. But that's part of business. Any business you're doing, you have to sell yourself. Sometimes it's hard because when it's your hobby and then it starts feeling like a business, you definitely have to start making decisions, as far as that goes. But you do need to find a way to put yourself out there. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to, have a whole photo studio, or that you have to, start a podcast, but participate. That's what I was great. Like, I watched a lot of videos, I commented on things. I still, like, if I have a few minutes, then I'm trying to like scroll Instagram or Facebook, and even if I can't do anything else, I want to try to like some stuff, and interact with people, because you got to know, people need to know who you are. The community is welcoming. I think that's what people also need to understand, is don't be intimidated to go to someone's table and talk to them. Like, we're all like super down to earth and a lot of fun. Go to the shows. Like, I don't actually sell at shows, but a lot of people are like, expect me to be at a show because it's like, oh, she's gonna come hang out,
Right.
That is good. Make sure you find ways, however you can, to be present. If you can't travel to shows, join live streams, comment, talk about projects, that kind of thing. Post in the groups. And then people do need to see your animals. And it doesn't have to be, there are so many tips and tricks and cool video transitions. You do not have to be an expert to do that stuff, but do learn the basics. Like, cell phones take amazing photos even today, but just figure out basic lighting. And then if a lot of people don't want to think about it because you get excited, so you go and you take 30 photos because the light's perfect. You got the light today. It's exactly in the window where you need it or whatever. But then you photo dump 30 photos. Don't photo dump. Nobody's looking through your 30 photos. Save them. And now, like, okay, today I post this one, and tomorrow, now you have content built up, so you don't just sink in algorithms. And I don't even follow my own advice very well, because I'll get busy and then I won't post a snake for a while, and then I'm like, hey guys, guess what? I still have snakes. But I do think that that's really important, and people want to see your animals. You gotta show them off. Don't show us some ugly something in your hand, like where it's like half of it, and it's like, no. With a little effort, you can do better.
You know what I always get, because I watch your stuff that you do with Justin on the calendars. Yeah. For some reason, I expect you to have every photo just like that, with a sculpture and it set up, and but you do have photos, but I always expect that photo, those photos that I see in the calendar.
Yeah, see, you guys don't get to see them all, because like when I do the photos, typically Justin will get an album of like 50 images, and it's multiple different poses and different things like that. And he goes through and he'll pick like which 12, or I think it's actually 16 images that you use because of the cover, front cover, back cover, something like that. But I think it's funny. My favorite part of that is that at this point, he's just like, go for it. He has literally no idea what's going to happen when I show up. One year, I brought a lot of glitter, and I saw the glitter the next time I went. It was still in like the corners of the floor. I did feel bad. It was on the Christmas props. It couldn't be helped. But that did make me laugh. But like this last time I went, I don't know if you saw on the calendar, it was like the honey photo, and there was the sand photo where it had like they were on the rocks in like the desert, right?
Yeah.
So Johnny's in there talking to him in the office or whatever, and I have a big bag of sand, and so I like walking in, I was like, hey Justin, he's like, yes, and I said, do you mind if I open some sand in here? And he's like, just do whatever you need to do. And he's just like, so he comes, so I have Sam and the little bit later come in and I'm like, can I open honey in here? And he's like, sure. And I'm like, I won't put it on your snake. I just need the honey and I to do it. And he's like, okay. And he's just like, whatever, Brittney, at this point. He doesn't know what's gonna happen, but he just rolls with it. It would be probably nice if I was like, this is the vision I'm going for. Instead, I just spring it on him and I'm like, hey.
To even have that vision, like that room, I'm still kind of mesmerized by the room.
Oh, yeah, the wall.
Yeah.
My kid was amazing. Yeah, so we got the little, these are like the little dots are actually poison dart frogs that I strapped in. So there's like, if you were here, you could see like blue ones and stuff all throughout the wall.
How old is he?
He is 11.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
He loves
reptiles. I would love that. At 11, I would have loved that.
Yeah, he's got like his big pixie toad that's like this big now. Like he loves the reptiles so much. He actually is the one that takes care of most of the feeders at this point. So he does all the cleaning of all the bins except the ones that are big and over his head. He feeds them and takes care of them, and he gets paid, and he loves it.
Wow. So last question, gonna ask you, and obviously there's no wrong answer. I'm gonna have you make an assumption of all the older genes, nothing that's kind of fairly new. What gene do you think is on the shelf or haven't really had a whole bunch of attention is gonna make a comeback in the near future? We've seen it with like red stripe and red head and all these genes that kind of came out of nowhere, came back. What gene you think might be doing that next one around?
Well, that's a tough one.
I know, because there's so many things out there.
There is so many, and there's a lot of them that I really like. That it's just very disappointing that they're just kind of overlooked.
I was researching,
and then some of them are, and then some of them are just like, I love asphalt. Like I would have asphalt in every single snake if I could.
Everything, huh? I like it because it's super. Yeah, the super asphalt.
I love the super asphalt. But even just a single gene asphalt, I just feel like I love what it does to pretty much everything that it's in. I also love Inchy. Like I just think Inchy is such a cool gene. I don't know. I'm excited to see what it is though, because I do think that is probably, again, there's obviously the things as breeders that we're struggling with and that are frustrating, and we're trying to find this balance of where our market is now and how the ball python world is going to work with, cells and stuff now. But it is a pretty exciting place because it does, if you have found a way to continue breeding, even if you're not moving as many animals or whatever during this time, you are really opened up to be creative.
Oh yeah.
Because there's, if you hit a nice animal, even with a lower gene or, a lower, I'm not like lower quality, but a lower price point gene,
right.
It's like it opens you up to a lot of creativity. You have more room to play because it's not like, oh, I'm going to make a clutch where each baby is $10,000 or, or if I do that, I might make babies that are worth $500 or $300. The gap is a lot smaller. That gives us a lot more room to play without and really see what these genes can do. I mean, again, I'm trying to find some positives here to some of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh no, I get it. But that definitely asphalt, I can see that. I saw probably a couple of years ago, I want to say like 2 years ago, you seen several other breeders that were moving further away from, I guess, yellow belly and trying to implement more asphalt instead, because of that the whole complex there.
But now there's different lines of asphalt too.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, we have one of our weird ones that we have not figured out yet is, and we may have talked about this, Darren, I don't know. So we have the Grim that has the Jedi, right? Yeah. And so Jedi I've been asked about before, and I always joke that it's like a wingman gene. Yeah. So some people don't think it's a gene. Some people do think it's a gene. All I can say is I've produced quite a few clutches, and I had clutches where I had normals, I had Grims, I had Jedi, I had Jedi Grim. Like you could very clearly see the difference. So I do feel like there is a difference to be seen, but I feel like it's not a gene that you're like, oh, here, you should totally buy it because it's amazing on its own. I feel like it's like if you went to the table and you saw a Grim with Jedi and a Grim without Jedi, you would be like, oh, what makes that one look that way? You would see a little bit of a difference between the two. So that's why I say it's the wingman. It's like kind of gives you like a little boost, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we bred two clutches together that were both had what we really feel like is this Jedi gene in it, right? We produced what should be a super Jedi. And it caused a huge disagreement among Johnny and I because looks like a hypo. And I was like, no. I said, so wow, we just hit this hypo thing, right? It's a beautiful hypo looking thing. But I was like, it has to be back there somewhere. Like, you know, before we got them, the parents came and we just, you know, recessives are forever. Who knows where this came from? He's like, no, that's a super Jedi. And I'm like, technically, we're not even sure that super Jedi had ever been made. Some people don't even think it's a gene. And he goes, yeah, but that's obviously a super Jedi. And I was like, no, it's a hypo. And so we basically bet on it. And I was like, when this shed test comes back, I am going to be like in your face because literally there's nothing. I'm like, there's literally nothing. This has to be a hypo. I mean, it's like it's just a beautiful one, but it looks. He's like, nope, it's a super Jedi. And if it's not a hypo when it comes back, his is the most believable story, right? Yeah, so it comes back, it's a hypo. So I'm like, what? And now we've hatched several, like more than one of them. And I'm like, and he rubs it in my face all the time. And I've even sent it to someone, and I was like, what is this? And they're like, is that a hypo? It's a really cool hypo. And I was like, right? And then it turns out it's not a hypo. And Johnny will not let this go. He's like, that's because it's my real. He's like, it's my beautiful super Jedi. And I'm like, we don't even know it exists. And you're saying it's a super. So now I try to tell him that there's another line of hypo, clearly. This was just not DNA.
That's how you switch it up. There's another line. That's it.
He goes, yeah. And it's called Super Jedi. And I'm like, oh.
So wait, did you have any other hypos in the out of the pairing?
We've produced other clutches that should have made Super Jedi because he's like, this will prove it if I get it. And then he hit it again. And I'm like, no, like I can't even hit the monsoon thing and you can make this thing up, you know? Yes. So no, but it's very clearly like it's not like maybe it's like this snake is completely different, beautiful, caramely, different color from the other. And I'm like, logically, how do you even get that? Because Jedi doesn't change the color really. So why would it turn in? It logically doesn't make sense. Yeah. But DNA, they are not hypos. So
but you get one in each clutch, right?
Yeah, we got one from two different clutches that were Super Jedi. So
and, you know, sometimes when I hit supers, I only hit one out of the clutch.
Yeah,
only one.
Yeah, so I don't know. We're again at this point. I don't think I've posted photos of them because I refuse to admit. Have you posted my Super Jedi? And I'm like, no, I haven't.
All because you want him to be wrong.
I was even at Tinley.
Let's see it.
I've been talking to some of the genetics stuff. I was like, do you think there's another line of hypo out there? Like, could there be a hypo out there? Yeah. So I don't know.
I'm sure it could be.
Yeah. But
all the hypos still test as hypo, even though they're orange or
correct.
The green hypo, they still test as hypo. So
correct, but like I know that like some of the Grimm stuff and where like the Jedi came from some of the older snakes. You know, maybe that. So I do wonder if maybe or some of the African snakes. I wonder if there could be one that's just not that common, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's just not showing up on a shed test. Maybe it's legitimately still a hypo, or maybe it's still just a hypo, but it's on a different, like with the lycoi.
Allele.
Yeah, they all breed true. But technically by DNA, there were 7 because we got natural mutations from like Canada and France and South Africa and Utah and Florida. Like we were getting them from different places as they popped up, but we were sending in the DNA and they found 7 different mutations, but they all would breed together. So he said, do you want to call it 7 different breeds? Because there's no other cat gene like this. There's no other cat gene that involves 7 genes. She goes, do you want to call them each a different name? or what do you want to do? And we said, well, if it breeds true, it's a recessive gene, and you could breed any of the 7 together and produce a full a full litter of kittens, that are visually what we're calling lycoid. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Even though, because the only way you'd know is if you did this DNA test and they told you exactly, oh, this is the Utah line or whatever. So I mean, in theory, there could be other hypos that they haven't found on a DNA test yet, because it's just not, that box hasn't been ticked yet.
Yeah. So in other words, you're right. You're still correct. And he's wrong.
This is the hill I will die on. No, I'm just.
No.
Man, I had to eat so much crow. I had to eat, because I even got my friend typing me up. They're like, "You are right. You are right. It is the parents just carried hypo." And I was like, "I know, right? No, I was so wrong." And Johnny is just like grinning like the cat that ate the canary. He's just like, "Yep, I told you."
Hey, now you have 2 of them. So, but the fact is, nobody else has done it.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Nobody else. John was asking,
I want to see what they look like.
When dealing with certain lines or certain genes, the separate lines lead to come from the evolution of line breeding, or do you think it's like creating a slight difference between the two? Like when you have different strains of asphalt, or you have hurricane trick blitz, things like that.
I think this is one of the things I'm very happy about the shed testing on, because it's very, very easy to feel. I do. Okay, let me start over. I do think that line breeding or evolution in a line is really important. I mean, we've all seen. Okay, here's an example I love is the TSK Xanthic. John's were so black and white. That's why I chose TSK Xanthic, was because going to his booth, they were so clean. They didn't brown out. He did that. There's a lot of, I did buy some other TSK that I was not impressed with, and I actually chose to just not breed it. I gave that female to someone else, because for me, she completely browned out, and that wasn't what I was going for. So selective breeding, and not even line breeding, but selective breeding within a line is something I think is really overlooked. There are, and please don't hate me, there are some clowns that are just like, it's a clown. I mean, we can genetically see it's a clown. And then you see some and you're like, man, that is a clown. That is amazing. Now, it could have something else that we don't know, because there could be little differences in, maybe they're a little more granity looking or not. But I do think we can do better in our programs by selecting the best animal, not just this is I want sunset, and this is the cheapest one I can find. So I want this sunset, versus this sunset's incredible and it has really great color. That's the one that I'm going to put into my program. So I do think as breeders, we should all be doing a lot better at that.
I'm starting to see that.
Also, sometimes we get pushed in certain directions too. I was actually having a conversation with Ben as far as with some of the testing. I'm a huge fan of testing. I'm always gonna try to implement that entire programs. But my question comes also on the research side of things, where I asked them. We was talking about lesser and going that lesser and butter, and how they come up with the answer, saying that one is more rare than the other, and kind of prove my point, because I'm like, but what if the test that I sent you, and I told you, hey, these 10 are from my lessers, and you discover that that's more rare? What if they were butters? When these tests weren't around, when these genes were developed, we kind of lose some of the research power. Therefore, people are creating supers from using 2 different lines, and now we're here where tests exist, but you can't really research the source. So he's like, very true. And we kind of left it at that. And it's like, but you already put out the information that one is more rare than the other. It kind of devalues not me, but the originator of whoever discovered lesser or butter. So I don't know. I also want to kind of hopefully move forward in the sense of giving props to everyone that's out there. Genetic testing definitely needs their props, but also not misleading people in the wrong direction with some of the tests or results.
Well,
I don't know. I just think it's all interesting.
And a statement like that, again, I love to read like scientific studies and things that could also have problems in and of. So you say that one's more rare. Okay, it's base value. It just means the test they've got, they've seen that less. It shouldn't have any impact on this one's more rare. I'm going to market it as more rare. That's not what that means. That could actually, you could flip that the total opposite way. And I hope that people don't take what I'm saying as this is just me making an example. It could be more rare because those are not healthier animals. These animals breed better, or they were prettier and they got selected more often. So yes, this one is more rare, but that doesn't actually mean it is any more valuable or desirable because it's rare. Does that make sense? So again, I'm not saying that. I think picking a word out of that, like, to say, oh, well, it devalued, like you said, it devalued it. That's not really fair to that program to be devalued because, again, it
accurate.
It just,
and that's what we spoke about, like trying to come up with type 1, type 2. Since you really can't source it, you just know, hey, instead of it being labeled as 2 different names for the same gene, just understand that there are 2 different types. They give you the visual presence, the same thing, but there's 2 different types, and kind of run with it then.
Well, and there's a lot of genes like that. Like I mean, think about how many yellow bellies you have. I mean, I have some yellow bellies that I'm like, this has to have something else in it. It doesn't. It's just a yellow belly. But I've also had yellow bellies that are like, wait a second, is this a yellow belly? Like I shouldn't have to struggle to decide if you're a yellow belly. And so this is where, yes, shed test, make sure you know what you're doing. Especially for me, I think that's it's obviously no tool is 100%, but it is also a really good tool to make sure you're doing right by your buyers, because it's unfair for someone, to put all the years into raising an animal up and then it not be what you said it was, and they were trusting you. Yes, that happens. We can't help it. Sometimes we get it wrong, but now with DNA tests, we can at least try to make sure to the best of our absolute ability we've ID'd these animals properly. But then from there, just because it says it's this gene doesn't necessarily mean you should pick it for a breeding program. And I think that's where one of the problems comes in with, like we talked about earlier, the low expression. In cats and dogs, we prevent this for the most part. So with our cats, if you had a set of set of kittens that came out and you bred that mom to that dad, and instead of having, Sphinx are supposed to have big bell ears. So big ears where the ear base almost sits down at the eyes, right? Sometimes you get these little Siamese looking ears on top of the head. If you got those kind of, you were like, nope, I am not breeding these, and none of these are going out as breeders. You get to spay the kittens before they go. You don't risk that the kitten is healthy. It is beautiful. It's got a great personality. It goes to a wonderful home, but it does not need to be in the breeding program. We don't have that as snake breeders. As snake breeders, it's like there's a pressure to ID correctly, which we absolutely should do. But then you say, this is on that line. It doesn't look like the other baby in the clutch, but it doesn't look like the one with the gene. So now we call it low expression because it's somewhere in the middle. And we don't want to devalue a project, but we don't want to disappoint there's this whole thing. And now you've put an animal out there that realistically does not need to be bred into that project. If you can't tell what it is 100%, again, like I said, you should want low expression if that's a thing that happens commonly. Maybe you get, some better and some lesser animals in a clutch. Sure, that's just something that happens. But I wouldn't select for that. I mean,
yeah.
Absolutely.
But you can't trust it. Definitely. Like you sell it and then someone is like, oh, it's a great deal because it's a low expression, which made it a little cheaper. And then they get an animal that may or may not even have this gene. And
that would suck.
Or it could be a ride-along gene nowadays. I mean, we have a lot of those.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, the Cosmo gene. So have you been seeing a difference since you were the originator of the Cosmo in this area?
Hey, don't blame me for that. So I had noticed that originally when the first ones that we brought in, I was like, wait, why does this one look a little cooler than this one? Having said that, first I want to say, so I did think before he was calling it White Flame, I did love the pattern on my clown girl, right? My clown Cosmos girl. Like the pattern is so cool. And I was like, check it out. It looks like I always call it like, it looks like a geyser just exploded and just like disintegrated part of that pattern. So it's not like a flame. It looks to me more like just a geyser just blowed up the side in different places. I love that. I thought it was super cool, and I wanted to know if it was a cosmos thing. This was, again, before this conversation ever started. So I went and looked at clowns on Morph Market. Hundreds and hundreds of clowns on Morph Market. Not cosmos clowns, just clowns. There's a lot of them that have that same marking. Like a lot of them. So I was a little like, oh, so it's not a cosmos thing. I can't say this is a cosmos thing because so many of them have it. And then it was like shortly after that, he's like, it's white flame. And I'm like, what? Are we sure? Are we sure about that? I think it's a cool marking that can happen. There was talk originally about whether there were low expression and high expression cosmos. I've kept back a couple of animals that I thought were low expression because I didn't want to sell them, but I wanted to know if that was a thing. I've not produced a cosmos from anything that I would have called a low expression at this point. I don't know for sure how much is another gene involved, and if that gene is white flame or if that gene is just a floating gene. You know, I've jokingly talked to people at shows and stuff, and I've said, you know, we freckle at different levels, right? Like, some people are covered in freckles. Their family are very genetically prone to get freckles. My family, even though we're dark-eyed, it's the craziest thing. If you put me in the sun for 2 hours, I am like freckled, like completely, like just like almost every inch of my skin turns freckled when this happens, which is weird because typically you wouldn't see that. You would see that with the lighter eye color, but everybody in my family's that way. Like, we all freckle. Clearly there is a gene that we carry that allows this to happen. I almost wonder if we don't see that with these granite, because look at how many of the granite. Some of them are so cool, and then some of the yellow bellies have more granite. So what if in general there are lines of ball pythons that are more prone to freckling? It's not really freckling, but that granite. So then you have that underlying thing already going on. You know, you breed your, Grim to this, and dang, you're gonna get insane. And then you breed that Grim to another one that doesn't have that, almost like an enhancer, like, oh, I'm going to pump up all this granite and just really blast it. And now you've got one that's cool, but it's not as cool as this one. I think that's possible, but that's why we see a lot of variation in all of the ball pythons. So I'm not completely convinced yet, like, is there a second gene actually making a cool cosmos? I guess I'm not sure that it's the white flame gene. I do think that there is variation. I just don't know if that comes down to whether your snake is just really prone to like just blasting that granite or not.
Makes sense.
But again, that's just, I think everybody's trying to figure it out right now.
Yes, but it's a new gene.
And there are some, definitely, I will say there are some that it's like, this is the cool one. You can still see it, but it needs, come on. Yeah, come on, like, you gotta impress me. I have had one where it was like, it's clearly a cosmos, like, no doubt about it, it's a cosmos. It has to be a cosmos. But when I'm getting more excited pulling open my Grim Reaper, then it's like, okay, come on now, you can do better than that, cosmos. Still love the project.
Ooh, they're so nice, even in clown.
Oh, I love my Grim Reaper clown. They're just, I love the Grim Reapers. There's so much to be done with that.
Oh, I can't wait. Super Grim, super extremist. Yes.
Oh yeah.
On the way.
And I can't wait to see it in like the colors. Like what is that gonna look, a Grim Reaper in Mandarin and a Grim Reaper in Ultramale or Sunset? Like, what are we gonna get with that?
I want to see. You should put it in Orange Crush and see what happens, because even though it's a recessive, but yes, Orange Crush.
I think that's one that we're working on. I know we're putting the we've already. I had to make a note to make sure that I would know, but yeah, that's one of the ones we've got going. That and Mandy.
Oh, you got a list? Let's see the list.
Oh, no, my scribbled notes. I was like, okay, I was so afraid because I got diagnosed with narcolepsy, and my brain, it's there one minute and it's gone the next. And so I'm like, I know this, but I made the list, and then I remembered the things that I would say, like the breedings and things, and then I forgot last names. I was like, well, that wasn't on the test. I didn't prep for last names. Dang it. Next time I have to go over all my friends' last names.
Like, yes.
Remember all of that. It's been nuts. It's been nuts. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. We done had you up here 2 hours. So it's probably what, an hour before kickoff. I know it flew. But I told the boys I watched this Super Bowl thing they talk about, since I haven't watched a whole football game this entire season.
It's an American thing. I'm just watching. This is the only one I really actually watch. I watch the Super Bowl. But yeah.
I just tune in for commercials.
There should be some good commercials this year. There should be.
I'm excited about the commercials.
Yep, me too. Yes. So thank you so much for showing up and doing your thing. We definitely got to have you back on, show off some snakes next time, and talk about more into some of these different projects you're in. It feels like we probably got to do these in stages, because I feel like we could do 2 hours at the snap of a finger, and it just
this was it flew by. It was so fast.
Yeah. And I want to see that new super hypo.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? I mean, I'm going to send you a picture, because I'm just like, you can't, like, I really want to deny it, but as much as I want to, I can't, like, I'm having a hard time. So if you can come up with an argument I can use on Johnny about why I'm right, I would appreciate it. And if there's any questions, if I know sometimes I get distracted and I jump from topics. So if anyone was watching and had questions or wanted me to clarify something I said, feel free to send me a message, and I'll respond to that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And hopefully you have an awesome Sunday. Everybody that tuned in, we appreciate you guys. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. We'll announce who we're having next later on this week, and we appreciate you stopping by. Thank you guys. Later.